On behalf of the captain and the crew, we'd like to welcome you on board Flight 062, now departing to the world of preparing for the chaos. Cabin crew arm doors and cross-check.
Thank you for listening to us today. If this is the first time listening to this podcast, welcome aboard. If you're a returning listener, we're glad you're back. Seat 1A provides tips and tricks from more than 5 million miles worth of flying to help you take off from the crowd.
In today's experience, recorded on the 30th of June, 2022, we're going to discuss the current travel chaos that is ensuing in the aviation world.
And then we'll wrap up with discussions about the current events in aviation and our upcoming experiences.
Here we go, head first. So it is a wild and horribly chaotic world in airlines and airports and travel. I mean, I guess on the plus side, travel's coming back, but it's coming back beyond aggressively. And I don't think the world they didn't take the opportunity to get ready for it quite as much as we all probably thought they would have.
They're trying to put out a burning office tower with a garden hose.
Pretty much. And the hose has to drag all the way out to the ocean or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, listening to our fellow podcasts at Layovers and Flyer Talk, they've...
And Av Talk.
Yep. They've all been regaling stories of what they're seeing and experiencing at various airports around the world, which is generally system backlogs and mass delays and lineups and queues. Purely, and you can pinpoint it on the spot to one cause, but really it's the root cause is just overall the same. And that's just simply the common line we hear all the time of staff shortages. And, I guess you could say it's a human supply chain issue.
That's true. And I mean, human supply chain issues are not in many service industries, not just travel. So. Yeah.
Beyond, we'll leave the airport for now. Beyond even getting to the airport, it's like preparing for travel. Let's just start there. So, what do you do to prepare for travel? Okay, first book a trip. Great. And then maybe you think about your luggage. Fine, whatever. And what's one critical document and maybe something that goes into that document that you need to go places around the world?
Passports.
Exactly. Well, what's happened during the 2 years of the pandemic is in some countries, passport renewals or applications are either closed or severely reduced. But also people just thought, well, I don't know why I'm going to travel, so I better just wait. And my passport is about to expire, already did expire. I'm just going to wait until I know where I'm going. They didn't know when the road was going to open up before doing anything. Well, now everyone is trying to get their passports
renewed all at the same time.
Yeah. So I personally just had to go through absolute anarchy and back to get a passport for my new young son. So brand new passport application. And I mean, this is stories all about here in Vancouver, Canada, Passport Canada service. But in talking to friends around the world and other relatives, it's the same chaos around the world that's going on. Fortunately, my passport was okay. So back in March of this year, put together the application, and it's pretty straightforward. Fill a form, put life information on it, and go take photos, which when you're doing that with a 1-year-old, it's a bit of a feat. You have to get that all to happen. Just rock up at any place. Got that all ready and submitted the application. So here in Canada, the way it works is there is the Passport Office, which is a government-run entity. That is run under the entity called Service Canada. And Service Canada also handles birth certificate certifications. What else? A whole myriad of government services.
The customer service sort of facing government services.
Yeah. So I went online. Actually, no. First thing I did, the passport, the office is actually 2 blocks away from where I work. So I did a recon mission back then and saw a thing on the wall that said you can book your passport application online. Like, amazing. So I go online to the appropriate website, and it said, if you are traveling beyond 45 days, now again, this is early April, beyond 45 days, send an email to this address and an agent will call you to book your appointment. Okay, no problem. And I was beyond the 45 days. I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do this early and make sure it all works. Send an email. It took 10 days for an agent to call me back. Okay. Make the appointment. The appointment was a month later. So that was one heck of a wait. Yeah. So fine. So did that, waited for the month. So on the day of, rock up to the passport office. Now at this time, we're talking mid-April. It's just chaos at the passport office. And when I mean chaos, it looks like tent city. Like there's people camping out on the floor and sleeping bags. I'm like, what is happening? I wasn't quite up to speed.
We talked about lining up for concerts in the last experience.
Yeah. That's exactly
back in the day when you'd wait overnight to get, whatever big show was coming in before the internet was around.
Exactly. Yeah, but exactly before the internet. Exactly. So I thought, oh man. I was like, well, I have an appointment. I have this piece of paper in front of me that says go and show up at, I don't know, let's just say it was 10 o'clock. So I get my way to the front, and there's these third-party security guards who have been tasked with managing the front. And you can see the guys ready to tell me to push me and say, go to the end of the line. I'm like, I have an appointment. Oh, okay. So he says, come. And basically, it's like a nightclub. He's like, are you on the list? I'm looking. I'm like, I don't see my name on the list. I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, no. Yeah.
He's like, show me the confirmation. So I show him. He's like, oh, it's okay. Your appointment is with Service Canada across the hall. I'm like, aren't you
the same thing?
You're Service Canada, the passport. Okay. I was like, whatever. So I go across said hall, a little courtyard, interior building courtyard. And there's another guard with the list and nobody in line. And I show and name. Yep. See my name. Great. Bang. And wait 3 minutes. And next thing I'm sitting in an agent. Very kind, very nice. Take my information, pay the money, blah, 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 all stuff. Oh, how fun, nice pictures, cute baby, blah, 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 all the nice pleasantries. And submit. And she said, yeah, it takes about 6 weeks to get a passport. I'm like, okay, fine. So that pushes it over now to
early June.
May.
Yeah.
Yeah, end of May, early June. Okay. So continue on with life, leave it be. In the meantime, one of my coworkers, exact same scenario as me. We had not talked about this. She had done the exact same as me and done her drop off at Service Canada the day before me. And her promise date was also end of May. She was leaving already 2 weeks ago for a family trip to Switzerland with baby, etc. Well, at about 2 weeks out, nothing. No information, no call. So 2 weeks out meant past that end of May mark. So it's like, okay, now what? So try to call in. So I'm basically doing the same. Well, when you call, the government phone lines are so full, you can't even get in the queue. So you hit one for English, and then there's like this dreary recorded male government worker voice, like, hello, welcome. This kind of way. And when you listen to the first time, you have to listen to what it says. And basically, it gives you a bunch of useless information that says, all our agents are really busy. Please call back later. And it auto disconnects you.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, no. So for 2 days, my wife and I sat on, not all day, but, when we'd have moments today, we keep trying. You could see on our phone, like 38 attempts, 50 attempts, 60 attempts to try.
Oh, wow.
Dial, press 1, hear that voice, hang up. Dial, press 1, hear that voice, hang up. Well, eventually on day 2, one of us broke through and there was a different recording. It's like, oh, we're in the queue. Get the champagne. No, because then the queue thing says there are 285 people ahead of you. And you're thinking, oh, man. But actually, to their credit, their system is very good because every 2 minutes, it gives you an update of how many people are. So it keeps counting down.
Yeah.
Every 2 minutes, there are now 250 people in front of you. There are now 200 people in front of you. So that goes on. And you can put the thing on speaker, plug your phone in, and you don't have to worry if, suddenly they race through and you're next up and you miss it. you can just keep, as long as you can keep hearing the countdown, and at about, 30, you can kind of get back to it and get ready. Well, it took an hour and 17 minutes before I was actually able to speak to someone. So you speak to an agent and they said, yep, your application was received, but nothing has been done.
Oh no. Oh no.
So essentially all this, what the government did is they opened up these Service Canada offices that don't normally do anything with passports, but because it's such a demand, basically opened up a bunch of collection centers to gather all these applications, sent it to Mississauga,
the central processing
processing in the middle of the country.
Assuming and overwhelmed it.
People there and overall, I can just imagine this room of like stacks and stacks of applications.
It's like the Miracle on 34th Street when they come in with all the mail for Santa Claus.
Yeah, literally, exactly that. So I said, okay, well, what next? She said, well, when you get to 10 business days before travel, call back. I was like, oh man.
Oh no, yeah.
Here we go. So that was 2 weeks from this point. And we will get it transferred to an office of your choice, which here in Vancouver means Vancouver, or there's another office in the suburbs called Surrey. So we have 2 that service the population here. And what that means is literally, in theory, someone's going to go handpick our file and send it, like send the hard copy.
Expedite it out to the specific location.
Yeah, or they may scan everything and electronically transfer it to location, because the location is the one that has to process it and actually print the passport.
Okay.
With the scan of the photos and all that stuff. I thought, okay, well, that's great. And now at this point, now I'm on social media, reading up on people with stories, so many congruent, symmetrical stories of everything going the same, this whole transfer process. So now fast forward to last week, where we're coming close to departure date. So I call, and sorry, last week was when I'm getting a bit jumbled with the dates here because it all happened so fast. Anyway, at that 10-day out mark, I call and said, yeah, okay. She said, okay, we'll transfer it. So she hit the right button, transferred. Okay, fantastic. I'm like, now what? She said, wait for a call from the passport office to say you can come pick up. In my mind, I'm kind of laughing, like, okay, like that's going to happen. I said, when do I really need to panic? She said, get 48 hours out. If you have not, you have to go in with a brand new application. I thought, you've got to be kidding me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought, well, okay, what does that mean? Filling out the information on a PDF is fine.
Getting the pictures.
The pictures I have to take, get the kid, pack him up, go all do the photo again. I'm like, but whatever. These are things that have to happen, and probably pay more money too. Mm-hmm. This is not just simply just doing it for fun. And this is what happened to my friend. So she did the exact same thing, called in 48 hours out, went to the passport office. She didn't go in with the new application because they didn't tell her that at the time. And see, she somehow managed to get in within 4 hours, was told you have to bring back. So she's like, okay, well, it's baby. So they gave her some express slip to come back the next day, which was a Friday, and they flew on Sunday. And she had to get an emergency passport and pay all the fees for
Holy cow. Yeah.
Yeah. So pack up her daughter, go to this place, get the photo, show up the next day, submit it before, in the morning, first thing in the morning. And the passport office closed at 4:00, and she literally received that passport in her hand at 3:58 p.m. that day to fly on Sunday.
Man.
I was like, oh man. I was like, there's no, okay, I'm surely I don't have to go through that. That just sounds extreme. Boy, was I wrong. So now I'm thinking, well, what am I supposed to do? I had no call from the passport office about my transfer. And in reading everything online, I thought, I just have to go in with the new application. So I thought, okay, first thing is a photo. So fortunately, the place we went to take the photo was not just, at a pharmacy, but like an actual photography shop. And everything was done digitally. So fortunately, I went in and I said, hey, if I give you the date, can you reprint the photo? He said, yes, absolutely. Amazing. So he basically reprinted the same photo. That was the easy part. And then the lineup situation. So all they do now, they used to have different lineups. If you're a transfer, if you're 48 hours, if you're 45, they basically now just say, If you're traveling within 45 days, line up and apply as a new application. End of discussion. The only other lineup is for people picking up. Well, here at Vancouver, BC, Canada, you have to start lining up at 5 p.m. the day before to be able to get in the following morning.
Holy cow. I mean, sounds like when, 1999, I was in Zimbabwe, and I remember seeing people lined up around the block to get driver's licenses.
It's basically that. Yeah. And if anyone knows anything about Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and downtown, where the passport office is, you're lining up on it's a downtown business course street, and it's the east or western section of something called Hastings Street, which is not the most dangerous.
It's not super dangerous, but it can be a little sketchy.
Yeah, and you don't want to be like out there. And people go with tents and full on.
Yeah.
I thought, my God, I can't. How am I supposed to do that? Like, this is insane.
I would say this is a business opportunity for people to.
Well, and
to hold lines.
Yeah. And it's out there. You go on Facebook and there's students offering at $30 an hour to hold in line until like something like 6 a.m. and then you go switch out. But then the real people that are sacrificing standing in line are getting mad at those people. Apparently there's been like police incidents and whatnot. So
wow.
Like, oh man. And apparently if you're not in line out there by like midnight, you may not get in the next day.
Jeez.
So I thought, come on, like I'm willing to go.
And in Vancouver, I mean, Asian flights aren't even open yet.
No, that's the scary part is we're talking about people like just going to like, I don't know, Hawaii, Europe, whatever.
Yeah. So
I can't imagine what's about to happen. So I thought, okay, well, let me do some recon in this Surrey location. I mean, it's a half-hour drive from where I live. I thought, well, let's see. Well, out there, it's a lot better. A lot better. So I went out, I got up early. I went out at 5:30 in the morning one morning to go do some recon and see what was going on. Way better. So by way better, what I mean is that I made a plan to go at 3:30 in the morning and line up out there. Because in my mind, I'm like, I have no problem going and doing like a good 8-hour, 9-hour jaunt and, suck it up and line up to get this thing done. But this overnight stuff, 5 p.m., that's just, there's I can't, there's no way. And the person that was reporting that, I mean, they had family members coming and shifting in and out to help.
To do shit. Okay, well, yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have that option. So
Yeah, he's only one.
Yeah. So on a particular Monday, I went at 3:30 a.m. And the way they do it out there is the passport office is located in a shopping mall. So they line you up in the shopping mall parking lot out on one of the medians. I got there at 3:30 and there were already 50 people ahead of me.
Oh, wow.
But 50 is okay.
Better than what you would have had equivalent.
Yeah, in Vancouver. I had a camping chair, I had a blanket, I had devices, I had food. I had it all. I was like, okay, I'm here. So fortunately, my lineup mates were very amicable, very friendly, and we chatted about travel and life. And this is what happens when, you become next best friends with these people you're in line with. Good camaraderie. So it helped pass the time, but was it effing cold that morning. It was just cold and wind. I mean, in hindsight, I probably should have packed a warmer jacket, but it's June. It's the end of June. What am I supposed to do? So, and people are coming around with like coffee and offering it, like helping everyone out in line. It was quite interesting. Well, at 8 a.m., they advanced the line to an entry point to the mall, and quite well run out there. The passport agents, two of them, come out and explain the process. And they say, due to fire code, we can only have 115 bodies in that office, and that includes the staff. Okay, now we know there's a technical reason why you're not taking people in. Like, this is how we're going to do it. If you have this, if you have that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, it all makes sense. And at 8:45, the first wave went in. At this point, now remember, I had 50 people in front. There were probably 100 people behind me still to go. I did not dare drink coffee because that means you have to go to the washroom.
Yeah.
Now, you can leave your place in line, and this is Canada. People will watch your stuff, and everyone's very good and friendly. So that part was good. But at 8:30, at 8:45, first wave went in, and at 9:15, I went in with the second wave. So that queue was done. Now you have to queue inside the passport office, and you go to the first sort of, call it a triage desk, where you sort of make sure you have all your right documents and assess your situation. And you get like this random code, and then you just wait for your thing to come up on the screen to then go to an actual desk and an agent to get the real processing. Well, that threw me off because that took 3 hours more.
Oh, well.
Sorry, the queuing inside was half an hour.
Yeah.
I got my code, and then it was another 3 hours. Some people were going in and out of there in less than an hour, less than half an hour. And I think those are simple renewals.
Okay.
But mine, because it was a new application, I think, for a child, I don't know, special category, it was a long wait. It's funny, the time waiting outside was not nearly as bad as that time waiting inside those 3 hours, because you have to be attentive. You want to pay attention to the screen, because if you miss it, there's staff walking around, first call, second call, last call, and that's like literally a 3-minute process.
Done, punt. Yeah.
And did I have to go to the washroom? Was I working the whatever muscles? I was crossing leg. I was like, oh man, like just focusing on the pain.
Not thinking about Niagara Falls or the ocean.
Exactly. I had water with me. I had everything. I had nutrients. I'm like, no, I don't dare have anything.
Yeah.
Because it might tip me over the edge,
Yeah.
break the seal. Oh, terrible. Well, finally at 12:15, my number came up. I literally jumped out of the chair, go up, presented it. And again, the staff that are working, they understand. They're doing the best as they can. Nobody's getting mad at them. They're all very nice and very pleasant. So that part was fine. Explained, said, yeah, here, okay. And you have to have proof of travel. You have to have your itinerary with you to show that you are leaving soon. They take it, they scan it. And I wasn't going to mention that whole transfer, the existing file. I was like, oh, well, what if they say, well, no, you need to wait. But I thought, I should just mention it and say, you know what, we had a file already submitted. We tried to transfer it. She's like, oh, well, let me look it up. So nervously, I gave the file number. She's like, oh, I got to go to the back. I'm like, oh, no. This is never a good thing when they have to go to the back. Goes to the back and comes back saying, yeah, it's all good. We can use some of that information, but we'll take your new application as well, because all we see is you have a shell of a file with inquiries made, probably when I called in. So she puts it all in, prints out a pickup slip for the next day. And I was pretty much had my wallet out. And she's like, no, I'm not going to charge you any fees. This is ridiculous. This has gone on way too long. I'm like, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Unlike my friend who had to pay.
Yeah.
I think this has been happening a lot. Picked mine and got it. And the next day, picking up was like a 15-minute process and success. So that's my personal experience trying to get this bloody passport, lining up at 3 a.m. And it's nerve-wracking because as soon as we come back from our next trip, my wife's is going to be due up by November. So I'm already planning my strategy on what we're going to do for her.
Well, pretty much as soon as you come back to Canada, start the process. Yeah.
Although hers is simple renewal, but maybe it's the lineup. So it's funny, I put this onto a travel advice group on social media, and it's awesome to see everyone like reading it and commenting and wanting to engage and interact. So I'm trying to give some pro tips and share the information. I think the government realizes a problem, but I don't think they know what to do and how to do it just yet.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, from personal experience, like there's the central location in a lot of large centers, but say like in Toronto, there's like the former separate municipalities that used to be part of Metro Toronto. They had their own, and sometimes it's like, all right, the wait time's shorter there. Or like if you're in Montreal or like other say like you're in New York City, you go to one of the outer boroughs or something. Like it's there might be a quicker service office somewhere else.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because that was my backup plan, was to go to a city called Kelowna.
Mhm.
which is in the interior of BC.
About a
And there was
four-ish hour drive.
4 hour drive, and reports there was that it was like within an hour you're in.
Mm.
And there was actually around the same time when I was doing this came up on TikTok. This lady flew from Vancouver to Edmonton,
Okay.
which is another major city in Western Canada, and within 3 hours she was in. But the part that kind of gets missed in this whole thing is first thing, it costs money to go there.
Yeah.
Now, the person that flew to Edmonton flew on a ULCC called Flair,
Yeah.
and bought like a $78 flight. You're just going with a small carry-on. You need no frills, and 1 hour flight.
Yeah, and you're not
Just
paying
go.
for any like luggage upgrades or
Exactly.
check-ins or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Kelowna, I guess, there's not that much ULCC traffic, but I would have driven. So whatever the cost of gas. And the other part that they miss is unless it's a dire emergency and you're printing a passport the same day and fly back the same day, generally you're going to spend a night and get it the next day. So assuming you have friends and family to stay at and don't need to pay for a hotel, it can work out.
Yeah.
And you're able to take time off work and all that kind of jazz. That was my backup plan, was drive to Kelowna, get this all over with, and return from there. But fortunately, didn't happen. It's funny, that same night that I, did this 3 a.m., okay, submitted, I left at 12:30. I had to come to downtown Vancouver to run an errand that same evening at around 8:30. So I'm going to drive on this Hastings Street by the passport office and just see what the lineup's like. And sure enough, at 8:30, there was probably 60 people already in line.
At 8:30 p.m.
At 8:30 p.m., camped out, like full on, like tents, sleeping bags, etc., etc. Just
wow,
the same. So I haven't walked by there anytime recently, but the situation is dire. And talking to people in Sydney, in Australia, it's the same thing. Around the world is going on, and it's just this glut. It's just, you can't just train someone up to be a passport worker, to be a service candidate. Like, there's all sorts of protocol and procedure they have to go through to qualify to get that. So you can't just say, well, just add some more staff.
Yeah.
So all they could do is open up collection centers, but there's a bit more to it than that. So you kind of have to understand it's just the general demand is just off the charts.
Mm-hmm. All over the place. So
yeah.
If you're liking this episode experience, you may also enjoy Experience 36, Epidemic Unplugged. What's happening, and what does the future hold? It's available wherever you listen to your podcasts.
I think you're sort of going through this wild goose chase.
I'm going to Mozambique in a month, and going to Johannesburg, and then going through South Africa, crossing the major road crossing between Johannesburg and Maputo. And there's people who are organizing this from Mozambique. They're like, visa on arrivals available, but there have been people who have problems at the border crossing. So can you try to get it in writing? And so there's a WhatsApp number for the Mozambican government. And so a friend of mine, she sent a message, like, get it at the border. I sent a message, Canadian citizen, Canadian resident, do I need to pay? No response. Then a couple of weeks later, I'm like, all right, well, I'll write the embassy for Mozambique in Washington, D.C., because there's no Mozambican embassy in Canada. And said, hey, like, same sort of thing. No response. Then a few days ago, I'm like, well, how about I write them in Portuguese? So badly Google Translate what I wrote them in English the first time and send it through. No response in a few days. I'm like, whatever. I'll just keep all of this as documentation. I'll keep the Canadian government foreign affairs information to say that, the visas are available, land crossing on arrival, and I'll make sure I have cold hard cash with me. So
you hit the nail on the head. In the part of the world you're going, I think that may be your quick solution.
Well, it's like whatever it is, the local currency, or I think it's like $50 US or something. So
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, the fact that they're not even responding. And just trying to get information to confirm.
And I'm just like, okay, well, there has to be a website that says, okay, like, here's how it works. I get it. I mean, I've been to that part of the world before where, sometimes bureaucracy runs slower than even other bureaucracies. But like, if you're wanting tourists and people to visit and tour, that kind of thing, maybe you don't. Maybe that's why it's that way. But it's like, tell people up front, how much is it going to cost to get in, and which countries need to have visas before they arrive and can't do on arrival visas.
Yeah. It's funny, like it just shows the value now of social media and also forums and podcasts to get all this intel that doesn't exist in its official form.
Right.
Because chances are between now and then you might just find your answer in some random.
Well, I already know the answer. I mean, there's enough information everywhere that says here's what it is, but it's like I wanted it from like official documentation to say, okay, well, X thing here on this date, I've printed it.
Says that you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can stamp this page too if you'd like.
Yeah, exactly. I had a similar experience. The first time I went to Vietnam, not quite as unresponsive, but very inconsistent with the information. You need a visa to go in.
Yeah.
And you could get it on arrival, but you can also get it at the embassy. I was like, well, which one is it? And I couldn't get a clear answer. So I was working in London at that time and was departing out of London on, other journeys, and eventually I need to get the visa in London, England, if I was going to get it in person. I was like, well, maybe I can get it on arrival. And the arrival one was absolutely hilarious. Is basically you had to, one of these schemes, you had to apply through a travel agent, and then they send a letter with a bunch of names and a bunch of passport information, and then you collect on arrival. It was all very confusing and very foggy. So I thought, you know what? I have time. I was go to the embassy here in London. I don't need the passport during those, 5 days? It was pretty easy. And just do it there. So that was kind of a neat experience, going to a foreign embassy in a different country and getting the application done. So I went, got a nice, beautiful machine printed visa. It says Vietnam, very nice passport trophy kind of thing. Great. My friend that was meeting me there, she went on the whole apply through this dodgy tourism method.
Yeah.
Now we didn't land together. We just met at hotel. So when I landed, I'm curious. I'm looking at the signage, and we'll talk about wayfinding eventually. It said visa pickup. So I looked, and there's a whole queue of people at a desk to pick up said visa. I, in the meantime, just went straight because I had the visa.
Yeah.
Chop, chop, welcome, done. So my friend eventually rocked in and said, what did you do? What? So yeah, I had to apply and give her information. And she said, when I got to this desk or this pane of glass with the person behind it, there was a whole bunch of names on like a letter under some random letterhead, and all the passport data there. I was like, oh wow, this is great for privacy of information.
Yeah.
And you basically had to point me like, that's me. And they said, okay, give money.
Yeah.
And then she just paid the fee, and they basically put a sticker visa and hand wrote the details of what was on the sheet on the paper. And when she paid, then she got it. And then she went and got processed in immigration. I was like, wow, that's not sketchy.
So, yeah, well, I mean, it happens.
Yeah. She got in. A great trip. So
and unfortunately, I mean, talking of sketchy, I mean, things I'm hearing, I see it's like, you got these companies that are saying, well, hey, like, say for example, like the Arrive Canada app, like people are looking for it, and then it's like these companies pop up and they're like, well, you got to pay us, and it's like, so then people pay, and then it's like at the bottom the company says, well, we're not actually aligned with the government, we're just going to give you directions on exactly what you need to do to actually do the Arrive Can. So then somebody arrives and it's like, well, you didn't have to pay. And then if somebody tries to say, well, I want to challenge us or reverse charges or that kind of thing, it's like, well, they charged you for a legitimate thing. They did exactly what they said they were going to do.
That's true.
Yeah.
So we haven't even gotten to talk about the airport yet. So yeah, the airport situation is just mad. I have a friend currently, as we are making this recording right now, she has just landed from Speedbird BA-84 YVR into Heathrow T5. The aircraft was So 24 hours out, it was already posted with a 2-hour delay. And this is 380 service, by the way. So awesome that 380 is back up for them. And in the end, she left 6 hours late out of YVR. Wow. So in a further 4 hours, I guess. Connecting on to Madrid, missed connection capabilities in Madrid, in Heathrow, and now has to overnight. And typical line, airline will provide the hotel and all this kind of stuff. I just, before we started recording, I was chatting with her and she's almost in tears because she's like, there's no hotels. Like, what do you mean? So long line to get hotel because everyone apparently is misconnecting. And the agent is saying, we don't have any hotels to issue anymore.
Yeah, because there's only so many airport hotels along that stretch of like M4 and M25, right? So
they're basically saying, go fend for yourself, go sleep wherever you want, and write in for reimbursement later. I mean, my friend, was here for 2 months, is traveling back home to Madrid with like 4 suitcases at 32 kilos each. She's on her own, so she's trying to look up like porter service to move the bags and all the stuff. Pretty stressful. That's why she's getting pretty stressed out. So, piece of advice I gave just before we started recording right now is like, see if you can leave the bags at left luggage overnight, and then just hop train or whatever you need to do to go into central London. Just take any hotel in central London, and then go back the next day and get your bags and try and move on from there. So.
Elizabeth Line is open for a month now, and or Heathrow Express or whatever.
Yeah, so I'm trying to see if there's any update. No update yet. So who knows? Maybe during this recording we'll find a live update from Heathrow. But everything I'm hearing is, brace for impact, because whether it be security line, immigration line, everything's a lineup. There's a glut. Not enough's open. It's pretty rough out there.
And I know that there was a few. There's one flight. I'm flying early, relatively early, like 9 a.m. In a few days on July 1st to Calgary. But I'm like, all right, I'm going to show up at like pretty much leave my place and have like 2 hours for a domestic, where I normally before would have like, I've got Nexus, like 1 hour should be enough. Just to carry on. I'm like, well, I'll still do 2 hours, whatever.
And now you and I know what the heck we're doing at an airport.
Yeah.
So you're making a very calculated timing decision. You know how it's going to work. But if you think about, whether it be a not so frequent traveler or a family, they're just shooting in the dark, and they read all the media madness and fame, and they're like, oh, better go to the airport 5 hours early because Uncle Bob said so. And as we've heard, some airports are doing people metering and, checking outside, and they will hold you outside, do whatever the heck you want outside until, 3 hours before, or whatever it may be, depending on the airport, flow controls. And then even then, you're still lining up.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, we thought lineups in airports were bad before.
Yeah.
Nothing compared to what's going on now.
No, but then this will be like every other thing that happens where it's like, all right, the pendulum swung one way, the pendulum swung the other way, all to the extreme. And then eventually, it's going to recalibrate itself. But it just sucks to be on both ends, because I think of July in 2020 when I went to Terminal 3 in Pearson and had my Nexus and had absolutely zero need for it because there was nobody there.
Just walked in.
And I could have, like I commented at the time, bowled a bowling ball down the terminal and not hit anybody.
Whereas now you'd make it like 8 centimeters.
Exactly.
Take 5 people out in front of you.
Exactly.
Yeah. We remember this during post 9/11. Security lineups were just off the charts, specifically security. And everyone grumbled and complained. But,
or when they brought in liquid restrictions and.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's, it's a wild world, and our friends at AvTalk said it very well. He said, just arm yourself with everything you can in your arsenal, whether it be past privilege, booking something. Paul on layovers mentioned for an upcoming trip, he booked 2 independent routes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not 2C, but 2 separate routes. In case one failed, he had an actual hard book backup that he could cancel and reimburse just because it's that bad. So,
and obviously, that's an extreme option. And if it's like business related and you need to be there, I can see why you do it. But obviously, if you're flying with a family, that's probably not an option that's available.
So, I mean, a bit of self promo here for all our listeners. Tell all your friends, like, podcasts like ours and a lot of similar ones. These are the ones you need to listen to now, because all this advice that we sort of put out there to help during these panic situations, well, now is the time.
Exactly.
Now is when you want to arm yourself with some intel to be able to steer through, because like I said, you kind of need everything you get. You never know, one little tip here and there just might help.
Yeah.
So upcoming trips.
And I saw something on social media which I found absolutely incredible a few days ago. I think it was on Twitter, that somebody said, it was Canadian flight attendant, I think they said, if you're driving and it's 7 hours or less, or if your travel is like 7 hours or less worth of driving, it might be worth doing the drive rather than flying. I'm like, well, I go to Quebec City in about 10 days, and that's about a 7-hour drive, but there's no way I'm going to drive it.
Yeah, that's I've done that drive. That's a lot of driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to each their own, whether you're listening to us from us here in Canada, the UK, or around the world, check out your airports and do as much recon and intel. Like I'm planning to. We fly just under 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, 2 weeks today, now I think about it. The 2 days before, I'm going to go out at around the time when I'm thinking we should go to the airport, which, with a young child, and I think we're going to go at that 3-hour mark probably. I just want to go and see. I want to go and look and say, okay, what's the security line like? Is it good? Is it bad? We have a stroller. Can we go to the front of the line, or do they don't care? These are the things I want to go and investigate. Certain airports you can pay to cut the line, I guess.
Yeah.
Actually, funny that the last time we flew into London, it was into Gatwick in 2017. Oh dear, have I not been to London for a long time? Oh, dreadful. Oh, can't wait. So I remember we're in the Gatwick lineup for immigration, and which is deathly long, like 80,000 layers deep with 50 people in each. And as you kind of round the corner, I saw the sign. It's like something like not the words fast track, but some other.
Yeah, you mentioned this in a previous experience.
Yeah, and there was like an agent there, and you could buy some access
fast track access to immigration, right?
And I think I went online, so you can't buy it within 24 hours. So they probably don't want people just jumping right away. I bought it anyway, and there was like a teenage employee there. I was like, yeah, I'll pass. Yeah, sure. So we just ducked our heads on the stanchion and went. I can't find anything like that for Heathrow Terminal 2 just yet. So not quite sure what's going to happen. But again, arming yourself with information. I was just on some website. It basically said, look at the arrival times of other flights. And, the Heathrow website is very good. You can click on terminal date, time, and see what else is landing. And at least the time when we land, the only other wide body that I can see is coming in from Cairo. Mm-hmm. All the rest are narrow body service from inter-Europe, Ireland. So crossing fingers that there may be some ease on that one when we get in, I hope. But
yeah,
I don't know. The baggage situation is another one. That's a whole nother ball of wax. I'm hearing hit and miss stories about baggage claim areas and the chaos.
Yeah, same here. So
yeah. And we are traveling with checked baggage, of course. So
yeah, myself, I don't want to, but there are certain liquids that I, want to bring that's not available duty free. So I will have to check bags. So
yeah. So we have an upcoming summer of travels. Yeah, we'll probably reconvene somewhere across the world, I hope. Hopefully everyone enjoyed our last episode where we had a completely different take, hearing what it was like to sell Airbus products. That was
true. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. But we'll be... So, okay, you're heading off to which countries next?
2 domestic flights, then Copenhagen, so Denmark, then London, and then Eurostar to Germany, then train to Austria, flight from Vienna to Frankfurt to Johannesburg, and then internal flights in Mozambique, which will be interesting. Yeah, that'll be fun. And then Mozambique, Joburg, Cape Town, and then a long ass day from Cape Town to Frankfurt to Toronto overnight. So
Cape Town, Frankfurt, Toronto's in one go.
yeah, with like a 4 hour layover.
It's funny. I did that exact same. I mean, a long time ago, and I did a pay-in lounge in Frankfurt just to refresh and reset, and it was quite good.
Well, and they had sent me an email because it was like at the beginning, it was like 3.5 or 4 like hours, and then they're like, "Oh, we have to like do a delay of an hour." I'm like, "I'm fine with that. Give me an extra hour just to walk around and
get some food, get a bit of I mean, at least
and just in case there's like chaos at 6 a.m. or 5:30 or whatever, like first flights of the day."
It's funny. A lot of people diss Frankfurt. The one thing I do like about Frankfurt is very easy. Now, again, this is everything we've talked about in this episode. Frankfurt is very easy to enter Schengen and go into Germany, faff about, go find food, whatever, and take the train to Frankfurt main station if you really want, and get back in time and get through and back to your gate. It's very, very seamless. But I think you probably should keep an eye on that because
that's the intent. I mean,
your airside, you don't want to release that.
I'm like, do I even go outside? Like, I can't remember where the grocery store is, if there's one on the both sides of security or not, if it's only on the green side.
Yeah. So interesting things, interesting intel. You'll have to check. So we're not quite as many routings, but we are traveling first time with child. So it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. Simply just easy to Heathrow and back. And then, so.
Well, my decision a few months back was I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay for premium economy. And then, for as we talked about in the upgrades experience, Lufthansa had a very reasonably priced upgrade to business class on a 747-800 for like $500 or something. I'm like, okay, for like a 10-hour flight, I think it's worth it.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Not even a question.
And I get to sit upstairs in a 747.
That's a selling point. Immediate. Yeah. We're it's funny. I've been talking to a few people about traveling with child because they've been asking me. Right away you think, okay, traveling because we're not buying a seat for him. He's under 2. We're trying to take advantage of free travel while we can. And right away it's like, okay, first thing I look at aircraft configuration. Well, it's initially we were supposed to be on a 789, so it's a 333 config. I'm like, okay, well, in a bank of 3 with a young child, what do we do? Do we go aisle middle or window middle? So if you go window middle, okay, well, if we have to keep going in and out because of child and whatever,
the person on the aisle gets ticked off.
He's going to be annoyed.
Yeah.
And if we go aisle middle, that's great. But if we get to that magic point where we're able to get our baby to sleep and Buddy at the window needs to get out, well, that's And then it's like, oh, well, all family babies usually go to the bulkhead. Agreed. Well, here's a fun fact is the bassinet has a weight limit.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much a child past 6 months is beyond that weight limit.
Yeah.
And the other thing a lot of people don't realize is the minute the seatbelt sign comes on for any sort of turbulence, you got to pick that child up.
Child out of the bassinet, right?
So, hopes and dreams of throwing child in there and forgetting about it doesn't quite work out. Then the next thing is like, okay, well, forget the bassinet. Should I just book bulkhead? Because there's floor space. Well, the other thing is that some parents do it. I do not want to let my child sleep on the floor of the plane because the same thing. A, it's dirty. And B, you got to pick the thing up. If we somehow are able to have him sleep on it, the problem with the bulkhead seats is they all have the hard barriers in between the seat because that's where the tray table and the IFE goes. So I was like, well, okay. They then switched the aircraft to a 777-300, 343. I'm like, okay, well, at least I guess we could take a middle bank because, two. But on Air Canada's configuration, the very, very, very back of the plane, they have 5 rows of 2-seaters.
Okay.
I absolutely loathe flying at the aft of the plane. It's rough. It's the main galley's back there. It's just meh. But for this, I've booked the 2-seater. So at least I'm guaranteed to have 2 seats together with no one to bother. And hopefully, when we check in, maybe we'll strike luck and there'll be a 3-seater and they can block the seat and we can have a 3-seat bank to ourselves. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Just the thought of being in row 60 something. Ay.
True.
Oh, well, what to do?
Yeah, the queue to get out of the plane and then the queue to get through Her Majesty's Customs and Immigration. And
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. So I guess we will catch each other. So we'll give a little teaser as to episode Experience 63. We'll be coming to you live from somewhere in the world. Just
excellent.
Out there. And leave it at that. So.
All right. So, yeah, that's going to be crazy. We'll see how we do with all of the insanity of everything. And with that, it wraps up Experience 62 of the Seat 1A podcast. If you liked this podcast experience, be sure to rate us and subscribe. Tell your friends and fellow travelers about us. Make sure you visit us at podcast.seat1a.org for complete show notes. That's Sierra, Echo, Alpha, Tango, the number 1, alpha.org. Feedback, addenda, letting us know where we've messed up. You can send all of that to stories, STORIES, at seat1a.org. If you'd like to support the show financially, we have a page at Patreon, patreon.com/seat1a. Links are included in the show notes.
And here's what we can look forward to in upcoming podcast experiences. We will debrief on our summer travels. Hopefully have some more interviews for you. And we'll also eventually get to airport wayfinding and what's it like traveling with senior citizens. As always, we look forward to your stories. Please let us know what it's like out there as you get back into travel. And I'm sure you will have some crazy experiences. Please share and let us know if there's anything else you'd like us to cover. And we'll do our best to get onto that.
Excellent. So until the next time, I'm Geoff. Thanks for listening.
And I'm Vinod. You're cleared for takeoff. Have a great flight.